The air in the courtroom was thick, heavy with the weight of unspoken accusations and simmering resentments. It felt like a stage, and we, the unwilling actors, were forced to play out our private tragedy under the harsh glare of public scrutiny. Across the aisle, she sat, a picture of composed indifference. Her posture was perfect, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek, severe bun that accentuated the sharp angles of her face. But it was her eyes that held my gaze, those cold, calculating eyes that had once been my solace, now filled with a smug certainty that infuriated me. We'd been married for 12 years, a lifetime, or so I thought. Ashley and I were, at least on the surface, the perfect couple. We had a comfortable home, successful careers, and a social life filled with shared laughter and inside jokes. We had built a life together, brick by careful brick, also I thought. But like a house built on a foundation of lies, our life began to crumble. It started subtly, a change in her schedule, a detachment in her touch. I dismissed them, chalked them up to stress or a change in routine. Naive, I was so naive. Then came the whispered phone calls, the hushed conversations in the other room, the late nights at the office that had nothing to do with work. The first real clue was a misplaced receipt for a hotel room. A room not booked for the two of us, but for her and another man. That was my first taste of the betrayal, a bitter metallic tang that settled on my tongue and wouldn't leave. It was a paper cut compared to the sword that was to follow. I confronted her. I remember the scene so vividly. The kitchen, the familiar smells of our life, turned somehow awkward in the moment. Her eyes, when I presented her with the evidence, flicked not with shame, but with something closer to annoyance. She didn't deny it, not at first. Instead, she tried to justify it, a twisted logic that made her the victim, me the cause of her infidelity. She even said she deserved it. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to scream, to rage, to throw every piece of our life back in her face. But I didn't. I just stood there, absorbing it all, letting the silence speak volumes. I decided then and there that I would not give her the satisfaction of a dramatic outburst. I would play it cool. I would play it smart. This was not just about a broken marriage. It was about holding her accountable, about making sure she understood the magnitude of her deception. And I knew how to do it. I started keeping records. Dates, times, details, every piece of evidence I could find, meticulously documented and organized. I started building a case, a wall of proof that would dismantle her facade of innocence. The divorce proceedings were long and acrimonious, a painful dance of legal arguments and accusations. I could feel the hatred radiating off her like heat from an open flame, but I was ready. And sitting there in that courtroom, with the weight of it all pressing down on me, I felt the strength of resolve, the unwavering conviction that what I was doing was not about revenge, but about justice. And there she was, looking at me with that smug, confident expression, a silent declaration of victory. She thought she had won. She believed her lies, her calculated manipulation, would protect her. She thought she was untouchable. The judge, a woman with a calm and observant demeanor, called for the evidence to be presented. My lawyer, a sharp, seasoned professional, methodically began laying out the case. He presented the hotel receipts, the credit card statements, the photographs, everything I had painstakingly collected. Ashley's face remained composed, her smirk unwavering. I watched her, a cold satisfaction growing in my chest, anticipating the moment her carefully constructed world would crumble around her. I could feel the energy in the room build, a gathering storm about to break. Then came the crucial piece of evidence, the one that had her whole world resting on its shoulders. A series of text messages, not just a few casual exchanges, but a long, detailed, and undeniable trail of conversations spanning months. These texts revealed not just her affair, but the cold, calculating way she had manipulated not only me, but also her lover, a man who, as it turned out, was also married. They exposed a web of lies so tangled and intricate that even the most skilled liar could not have escaped it. The judge read the transcripts aloud, each word a hammer blow against Ashley's carefully erected wall of defense. With every sentence, her smirk faltered, her composure cracked. Her eyes, wide with panic, darted around the room. The smugness faded, replaced by a look of sheer, unadulterated terror. Then there it was, the moment I had been waiting for. A text message to her lover in which she explicitly stated she was planning to financially bleed me dry in the divorce, using the affair as leverage. She called me a fool. This was her undoing. The confirmation of her cold-hearted motives, her utter lack of remorse or moral compass. It was a statement that stripped bare her character, revealing the true depths of her deception. Her face turned a ghastly white, her hands trembling as she frantically whispered to her lawyer. The courtroom, a moment ago buzzing with anticipation, fell into a heavy silence. I could almost hear the gears grinding, the moment her reality fractured under the weight of the truth. The judge, her expression grave, looked at Ashley and spoke with a controlled power that resonated throughout the room. This evidence is damning, Ms. Walker. It paints a very disturbing picture. It speaks to not only infidelity, but premeditated malice and an egregious abuse of trust. The gavel hit the wooden block with a sharp, resounding crack, a sound that seemed to echo in Ashley's ears, signifying the demise of her carefully crafted world. I felt a rush of something close to satisfaction, but it was tinged with a deep sadness. This was not a victory, not really. It was closure, a final chapter in a painful saga. The divorce settlement heavily favored me, the financial burden of her deception resting squarely on her shoulders. The judgment was a validation of the truth, a clear declaration that her lies would not go unpunished. The world had crashed around her, not in a dramatic explosion, but in a slow, agonizing collapse. Her lawyer, a man who had initially been brimming with confidence, now looked utterly defeated. Ashley, pale and shaken, didn't look at me, her eyes fixed on the table, trying to comprehend how utterly wrong she had been. She had thought she could outsmart me, that she could continue her game with no consequences. I left the courtroom that day not with a feeling of triumph, but with a sense of profound relief. The weight that had been pressing down on me for so long had finally lifted. I looked back once at Ashley, sitting there defeated. The look on her face, the one that was once brimming with arrogance, was now a mix of fear and complete desolation. I could see the panic, the realization that she had gone too far, that her carefully laid plans had backfired miserably and completely. Her silence spoke louder than any scream. She had underestimated me. She had mistaken my quiet nature for weakness, my patience for blind trust. But the truth is, I was stronger than I ever thought possible, and in the end, it was that strength, coupled with the truth, that had won the day. As I walked away from the courthouse, I looked up at the sky. It was a clear day, and I knew I could move on, leaving the wreckage of our broken marriage behind me. It wasn't a happy ending, but it was an ending, and that was all that mattered.